Hi, I'm Steve Linthicum. I'm a professor at Sierra College, and as you can see from this slide, I'm also something called a Deputy Sector Navigator for the Greater Sacramento region. That position with the Chancellor's Office has provided me with the capability of supporting the CyberPatriot program in a number of ways. So I'm going to get right down to it relative to this video, and that's, first of all, getting rid of this PowerPoint slide, so I'll minimize it. And you're looking at my desktop. This is actually my laptop desktop. And what I have done here is I've created a virtual machine in VMware Player. That's the application you will be using. And I've created a rather short scenario. You can see it over here on the right, but it's also here on this virtual machine. If I double click on that, it will bring it up. And one of the challenges that I think you'll face relative to the competition is getting the scenario in the hands of each of your students. First time you'll be able to view it, or they'll be able to view it, is when you open the image. Then you double click on it and it comes up. And you need some mechanism, in my opinion, to get paper into their hands. So as a coach, you're responsible for security. So best way to do that is to simply open your browser, here in this case Internet Explorer, and I'm not going to do that. Email this file, this particular file that contains the scenario, to your email address, so you're emailing it to yourself. Then in one of the other computers that's on your network where there's a printer, you can actually open that file and print copies of it. Make sure when you print copies of it that once the competition is done, that you get those sheets of paper back from your students and destroy those, and also delete this file. We don't want it getting in to the hands of people it should not be in. So we're trying to keep the competition fair by safeguarding everything. That's our responsibilities as coaches and technical mentors, to make sure that we have an even playing field. So let me go through, and I'm going to briefly read the scenario. You can see most of it over on the right-hand side of the screen, but you can't see it all. So here it goes. You have been asked by the head of a local Boys and Girls Club if you're interested in serving as the club's network administrator. The network is configured with 5 Windows 7 workstations. As a preliminary test to determine whether you have adequate knowledge relating to managing and configuring a workstation, you are asked to demonstrate your capabilities and knowledge. This workstation is a standalone, and I have in parentheses, not configured in a domain, which is how larger businesses would have their networks configured. It serves as a, quote, file server. A single folder is shared with other employees, and each employee is allowed to access files in the folder remotely, but is not allowed to change or delete files in this folder. A club policy is that Google Chrome is the default browser. Another club policy designed to improve performance is the only malware product allowed on the club's computers is Windows Defenders. Club users are identified as follows, and you can see we have a couple of administrators, and then down below that, and let me see if I can click here and bring that in so you can actually see it. Yeah, we got, as you can see here, a number of users. So the scenario goes on. You need to ensure that a password policy requiring users change their passwords every 90 days is implemented, and complex passwords are required. Do not remove any authorized users or their home directories. So going through the scenario, I've included in this document, as you can see going down here, issues, descriptions, and then you can't see it here on the screen, but I'll be providing you with a copy of this scenario anyway. Over on the right is priority. And I think that that's important. So as your students, even before they start working on this image, other than getting it open so that they can get to the scenario, I would recommend they sit in a group and they talk this out. And they go as to how they're going to handle the issues. Now, as we read down through this, basically what we're doing here is that we know right away that this is a workgroup configuration, and that makes things somewhat simpler. This is a standalone workstation. It serves as a file server, okay? And a single folder is shared with other employees, and each employee is allowed to access files in the folder remotely. And I love this because my screen just went blank, and that was probably because I need to go here and I need to go to personalizing it, and see if we can figure out a method by which the screen won't go blank. Now that's probably not where it is. It's probably a power setting in the control panel, but I'll just keep moving the mouse around so that doesn't happen to us again. And one of our issues is obviously that shared folder and the permissions associated with it. Now if we click here, and I'm just going to go to the computer and click here, and let me see, we got something called shared folder here. And if I right click and I go down to properties, and I'm going to do this rather quickly, I wouldn't expect your students to do it this quickly. I go here to sharing and I look at, excuse me, let me go here and I go to advanced sharing, and I'm going to be able to basically look at the permissions relative to this. So if I click here on permissions, you can see that right now we have everyone, interesting, has full control. They can change or they can read, meaning they can delete or modify folders. And obviously we're going to have to go in and change that. But that's one of the issues. And I would put that down in description. Over here I would probably put sharing permissions, something like that. That's an issue. But we have other issues here. We have the number of users, and one of the things is relative to whether or not they're an authorized administrator or an authorized user. And so let me give you an example of how I would handle that. That obviously is going to be an issue that needs to be resolved. I click on here, and I know some of the shortcuts, but I would go here and go to Manage. This is another method for controlling users' rights. You could also go to the control panel, but sometimes as you get more experienced in this, you go the fastest way, and to me this is the fastest way, although as you can see, this is a virtual machine and things take a little while. So I go over here and I click on local users and groups, and I look in groups, and these are the different groups we have. We have an administrators group. Well, according to our scenario here, really only Abel and David should be administrators, and you see we've got a whole bunch of other administrators, and I might, because I know G Knight is just supposed to be an ordinary user, I might remove G Knight, and that accomplishes the goal, as you can see. Can also go through, we have users, and I want to make sure that I don't have any users here that I shouldn't have. And as we go through here, for example, we've got M. Jones. Well, there isn't an M. Jones here, okay? So I've got to deal with that one. Now, I got a couple ways that I can deal with it, and this is where I kind of disagree sometimes with CyberPatriot. What I might do is right-click and go to Properties, and I might disable the account. One of the reasons you'd want to do that is basically because you want to make sure that that user doesn't use the account. If you delete it, you might run into problems on other applications, and I believe that at this point CyberPatriot and I have a subtle disagreement. I also might change a password here just because somebody might go through and enable the account, some other administrator, and so I'm going to go PASSWORD, unique password PASSWORD, and I go OK. So not only have I disabled the account, or attempted to disable it, let me try it again, PASSWORD, PASSWORD, and I've changed it. So the whole idea here is that for this particular user, not only is their account disabled, but their password has been changed in case somebody went through and enabled the account. They still can't get in. They don't know their password. Okay? So that gives you an example of what I might do with a user. I prefer to disable it until I know more information, change the password. In some instances, you may want it removed. And so you just have to make a decision with regard to that. Okay? So that's that issue. And I would, of course, before I even start doing this stuff, I would have it down in the issues and how they're to be handled and then give them a priority. Some other things that we have here are, we've got to deal with that file sharing, obviously, and make sure that the permissions are basically read-only. Club policy is Chrome is the default browser. Don't have Chrome installed on here. Would have to go through and do that and make sure it's set up as the default browser. In terms of virus protection or malware protection, we're to make sure that we have Windows Defender up and operating, you can go to the control panel. And I much prefer this setting when I'm looking at the control panel. And you can see that we've got Windows Defender here. So I would need to go through and make sure it's up and operating. Obvious thing that might be done is that service might be stopped or disabled in some fashion. So I'd have to enable it. So that gives you a pretty good sense. Other areas here that we're going to have to deal with, just because I suggest that we have to deal with them. Under administrative tools, local security policy, we need to implement password policies here. A couple of the things that are desired is that we, and good luck in trying to find these kinds of things. Sometimes they're under account policies. You can see that we got password policy here. So we're going to have to go through and set them. Some of the things they want is the maximum password age. We would, according to this scenario, set that at 90 days. I'm not going to go through and do it. And we got to have a complex password, and we would enable that. So that gives you a sense of the things that you would do here. But what I want to do is emphasize once again how important it is that your students deal with this scenario, and before they even touch the machine, they have figured out in their own minds where the problems are, where they can get points. And I think that that's a key thing. So that's pretty much the end of my discussion. I hope you enjoyed it, and that's it. Thanks for watching.